project all started with a chance meeting. I met Dave Stitch in Dalston at the Ridley Road Social Club, and we were both part of an exhibition. He'd seen some AR I was doing and expressed an interest. Dave sent me his album recently, and the production quality and content really assisted me in getting stuck into this project. So right from the off, we both expressed an interest in experimental. So this project for me was about pushing the limits on what could be achieved in AR. This is the early work. It was two-dimensional, audio-driven, really letting the sounds determine the visuals. Dave was interested in a 3D oscilloscope and showed me some examples of some outputs he'd done on his virtual oscilloscope. He sent me some scripts and we started looking into mapping a waveform in 3D. Nothing actually yielded anything with any aesthetic beauty. So we ended up looking into what a digital oscilloscope could look like. The main purpose of an oscilloscope is to graph an electrical signal as it varies over time. Most scopes produce a two-dimensional graph with time on the x-axis and voltage on the y. So I started with this premise, a simple x and y grid, and I created oscillations off this grid where the audio triggered a displacement on different axes with other parameters. This was part generative and part designed project that I achieved in Adobe After Effects. It really formed the basis of the whole project. The rest was just nailing the aesthetic. I forced myself to only tweak a number of parameters, just limiting to X, Y, gain, twist, rotation. Some of these values will be constantly changing, but I managed to achieve the angle by using different camera angles. There were no lights used at all in any way. Effects-wise, it was just completely stripped back to the bone. Form was the most appealing aspect of it all. Presenting the composition in all its naked glory forces you to see the music through the simplicity of form. There was a point when something clicked and I started to manipulate camera angles where we had these really raw initial animations. Much of Dave's work features beautiful soft chord sequences and sometimes strings. As a result of feeding from this beauty, I developed more of a lo-fi aesthetic. So the visuals started to become more delicate and intentional. The track Neither has warm chords and very delicate, intentional notes. I wanted to represent them visually. I was trying to imagine what the chords from a harp in 3D space would look like. There's a recurring theme with the circle as well. My favourite album track was Aerolith. In this track, the video uses a circle, so I borrowed this theme for my version of Aerolith. In fact, on all of my animations, the circle is somehow featured. It might be hidden away, but it forms an integral part of each animation. The circle is a universal symbol with extensive meaning. It represents the notions of totality, wholeness, original perfection, all cyclical movement. So the exhibition was called Interactive. It ran Feb 21. It was a Leicester digital arts exhibition focusing on virtual reality, mixed reality, augmented reality, UX design, and also interactive art. To accommodate the fact that there wouldn't be anyone allowed into the gallery, the whole exhibition was pushed up to the front of the Lightbox gallery window. Anyone passing could interact with some of the artwork from off the streets. So the 10 pieces I exhibited were displayed right at the front of the LCB depot window. The 10 markers would also trigger an animation which could be shown in augmented reality. So the next part was the residency at the LCB depot. I was offered the Lightbox gallery for a week. So I jumped at this and moved a large format printer in. It was lovely having that white space in the wall and space to project my ideas. Created this wall, it's called the process wall, which was just my thinking from start to finish as the project developed out of the darker phase into the lo-fi phase and then into the 3D phase. So the 3D part was essentially taking one frame from the 2D animation and essentially warping it or mapping it to a 3D shape. In this case, I kept to the circular theme and mapped it to a sphere. So the pieces you can see now are the 2D frame wrapped around a 3D sphere. I did this in a variety of 3D programs. I actually found Photoshop very effective, and it gave a very artistic result. So the objects created felt more like sculptures than 3D rendered objects. So to create depth, I built up sculptures within sculptures within sculptures in augmented reality. The end result was essentially an augmented reality audio sampler. I built 2 unique AR 3D sculptures. Each sculpture had 5 layers, which were based on a chosen frame from the animation above. The proximity to each layer triggers the corresponding audio track or sample to play. The result is a simple audio sampler that can be played in augmented reality. That's it, thanks for listening. You can see more on my blog andyharper.co.uk/DV.